Yeah. Let's give these guys a leader. Let's give them a purpose. Let's give them motivation. That is the goal. All right. Let's expand on their excitement for a new opportunity. My job isn't for me to win. My job is for this to be successful so that more people are RP. If we can get this successful, we can bring another level of investigation to the forefront. And yeah, I'll even go as far as saying, like, there are people who are like, oh man, you know, others want to do investigations too. Bitch, there ain't no detective unit right now. Any semblance of a detective unit right now come from one of the OGs, right? Some things are getting investigated. They're not really. Most court cases are awful with their evidence. They're nothing like it was in 3.0 and 2.0. We're so far away from it, and this is a opportunity to have full-time detectives, bro. You know what I mean? We can't fail on that, because every time it fails is just more likelihood of it not happening in the future. And that includes why it's important for us to work with the let's call it the folks that are also detectives in the other departments, because we can always keep the ball moving forward, right? And be inclusive, which allows us to stay small. I don't know. There's a lot of, the vision is exciting. Okay, so this is a constitutional change. May only be removed through ACR. No, we're not doing that. Wait, request access.
Hello.
Hey, can you, I just sent a request in for the document, and what I'll do is I will put my comments there, and then once I'm all thoroughly through, we'll use those as like points to discuss.
Do I own it? I don't own it.
Yep. It's
I do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Huh. Okay. There you go.
Easy. Thank you. All right.
I thought Gunnar owned it. Okay. Easy. Yes.
Yep. Easy. Blunt. What's your first name, by the way?
Transferred all this to me. Mike.
Oh, yeah, that's probably exactly what happened. Okay, awesome. Thank you very much. I'm gonna start running through it. All right, bye. Hey.
Yeah, I think that's just a copy that I made, because if you look at the one that Gunnar put above, he owns it. So I just made a copy of the document.
That makes sense.
I must own that one. Yeah.
That makes sense. We'll use this as like the main one, since it's in our control.
Sorry, yeah. Easy.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, no respect.
They are represented by, you want to call, not needed. So, FYI, Governor Coyle isn't the only member of the state. The state is actually many people, some of which are unnamed, let's just say. And not all, like, we don't know, which is, I think, a good thing. And since it's a constitution, we don't want to name it directly. Okay, the state of the representative shall have ultimate legislative authority over all matters within the state, including local jurisdictions, and is responsible for reviewing, approving, and directing any change to the Constitution. Oh, wait, this is overcooked. So I think we're trying to do too much with this. I need to understand the intent, right? These aren't necessarily like wrong or ideas that should be discussed, but they're their own individualities, right? So this is the problem is, on principle, I don't agree with making alterations in the Constitution unless absolutely necessary. And for me, this is a huge constitutional change, these two lines alone, which I don't particularly agree with. I do like the concept of defining the state. And it is the state of San Andreas. Right. Now, you wouldn't want the name in it, but the state of San Andreas shall have ultimate authority over all matters within the state, including local jurisdictions responsible for reviewing, approving, and directing any changes to the Constitution. The process for changing the Constitution is rather undefined and would likely be through an existing or expanded, only known to state, set of laws. Okay, let me just like rewrite it. Shall have ultimate authority over all matters within the state, including local jurisdictions, and is responsible for overseeing. Any amendments run-on sentence I agree with the spirit of defining the state and its agencies below. However, I think this entire section needs to be better written. Oops. Okay. Yeah, the general principle of defining the state of San Andreas and in turn the Constitution acknowledging SASM and the Department of Corrections directly makes sense. Yeah. But not the particular wording. Must not have any felony or capital charges on the record to be eligible for these positions and may serve no more than 2 consecutive terms in the same. What the fuck is this? Not our place. All citizens are guaranteed a fair trial. All citizens are guaranteed a fair trial and due process of law. Ooh. Okay. All citizens are guaranteed a fair trial and due process. I actually really like this. I actually really like this. Though it should be presented as being something the DOJ should spearhead with us simply presenting it as a suggestion. As this is more in their domain, but I could see how okay. Now I'm starting to understand why we didn't have much movement with the marshals, because like this is not how you present things forward. This is actually this is a challenge that I had to face when I was on Nino, is when you try to do too much, nothing gets done. This is I'll give you an example, right, of what that means. So just like IRL, when there is what do you call it, like in real life, when it comes to like, you know, when people put like a House of Representatives, like some representative in the House of Representatives or a senator or whatever is like making a bill or whatever, right? And more and more and more gets added. It ends up being like, yeah, exactly. It becomes like an omnibus bill. That never, the reason those things end up taking forever is because there's too much debate points, right? And too many points of contention. So you want to deliver them separately and allow things to evolve forward, right? SASM jurisdiction includes investigating misconduct within any law enforcement agency, legislative authority, or any government-funded or operated entity or in addition to standard law enforcement powers which are granted. Wait, I haven't looked at this shit recently. Wait, we resolve jurisdictional conflicts between agencies on the field, investigating and stopping organized crime, and temporarily suspending agencies or individuals which probable cause has been established that said agents are. Oh my God! Wait, wait, hold up. Wait, wait, hold up. Wait, hold up, boys. I need to call Lang and be like, listen, the solution here, all right, we suspend every agency and then go in the bunker and wait. It's time, brother. No, oh, fuck. I love thinking such shitlord ideas. Hey, what's going on, Frost?
Hey, I see you in your fancy observatory right now. I was wondering if you wanted me to come and see you.
Yeah, I'd love to. I think we should chat.
Oh, you'd love to?
However, I need to finish reading this document, putting my notes in, and as soon as I'm done with that, I am good to meet up. So give me an hour. Does that work for you?
An hour?
Yep.
Yeah, that works for me, honey. That's
right.
no problem. All right, love you.
Okay.
I'll speak to you soon.
All right. Bye.
Also, I was thinking, it's been a while. We could dress Quengle up as Robin tonight if you wanted.
Huh?
All right, I'll see you soon.
All good. What?
Yeah, I don't know. The sheriff just called me on some weird shit. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's just the way that Blaners talk. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I think he misses you. That's all.
Yeah. Maybe that's what it is. You're probably right.
Yeah, during the interrogation, after the bombing at BCSO, Frost came in and interrogating Chris. He said something about, "I just miss my husband. I just miss him so bad." Something to that effect.
Did he lose his husband or something?
I don't know. I think he was implying that you were his husband.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah.
Yeah, the Blainer blood's really gotten to him.
Yeah. I don't want to do all this. Some of this is a little bit too much. Like, it's not bad, right? But like, we're putting, like, this is way too much. Some of this stuff is inferred. I agree that further definition is a good thing. I don't think it's a bad thing. No, it's none of it is power grabby. This is just clarifying some stuff. So reading this, it's really just clarifying some stuff that's already inherently true. And people are open to contest it if they so choose. Like, for example, I think Gunner wrote this from the sound of it. But some of it is, or any other government funded or operated entity, sure. Resolving jurisdictional conflicts between agencies and like we already have that, right? Like, so you don't need to expand it to this because we are about agencies investigating, stopping organized crime, temporarily suspending agencies or individuals, right? And like we can already ACR. This is just saying like a lot of things out loud. We just don't have funding for it. The solution is the funding. No, these edits, these things in purple are edits. Yeah, I'm saying the stuff that's being added. Like, I'm open to expanding on legislation that further clarifies our role. However, some of this is already inherent. Value comes down to avoiding pedantic arguments in court. This is a secondary battle. Discuss. Certainly discuss with the DOJ after we speak among ourselves. The core, however, is around ACRs and needing to pay. I think that will be resolved via figuring out what our budget situation looks like. We should await that answer first. Okay. I think this was brother, we're just rewriting it all. We don't need any of this. Okay, I'm done. We don't need any of this. Yeah. So, the TLDR is, it sounds like Gunner got mad. The DOJ asked him why the fuck are there military vehicles, flying around. And I think he may have, overcooked a little bit. But we have a, okay, let me call blunt. This is, we have a much easier route we can take, luckily.
Hello.
Hey, I am all done reading.
Okay.
Was this written by Gunner primarily?
A good portion of it, yeah.
Okay.
There were some parts where he asked for input, and I gave some drafting to achieve kind
Understood.
of what he was looking to do. But, yeah.
Good news, bad news.
Okay.
But we can discuss over at the observatory. Chris is here as well, so whenever you're good.
Yeah, I'll head back up that way. Sean was having some trouble with some of the car stuff.
Ooh, okay.
So we're gonna have to do that another time.
Hey, no worries.
Yeah.
As long as we don't
but I'll
get
head back
attacked
up.
today, we should be fine.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome.
All right. I'll be up there in 2-3 minutes.
Easy. All right.
Bye.
See you in a bit. Bye.
Yeah, a lot of this became very retaliatory and reactionary.
Yeah,
I do though like the additions in there, like about DOC. Like, I'm not really in agreement with the exact details of the parole bail supervision, but I do like the fact of giving DOC a inroad into handling bail and parole. I just think it's
I'm not against that. So the thing is, like, our first tackle point, and at least especially with the legislative authorities today, is about the legal acquisition of third-party vendors. And so once we tackle that, like some of these other things, I'm not opposed to them. It's just, time and place. But I'll speak more to that once Blunt arrives. Yeah, there was a section I got to in there, and I'm like, wait, hold on a second, because it's like we don't need to tell anyone anything because it's da 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 da, and I'm like, okay, well, that's obvious. Like if the faceless are doing some shit and it needs to be classified, we don't have to tell anyone anyways. However, the reading of it to me was very clear, because a lot of this started, I got a phone call that, the whole, dark stones. Let me wait for Blunt to come over, because otherwise you're going to hear it twice. I grab some coffee real quick. Some of this stuff is good, don't get me wrong, but as soon as I got to this part, as soon as I got to bail stuff, I don't know, I got whatever that section was, we don't need to tell anyone anything, and I'm like, hold on, what the fuck? I'm like, I know what happened here. Hello. Hey, wait, where are you coming and going from? Because I saw you go this way, and then is there like a secret exit?
There's a back, an emergency door right at the
back there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, that goes right up to the front. Yeah.
Okay, that is dope. I see. Okay. Yeah, I was wondering earlier because you're like, all right, I'll get out there, and then I saw you. I was like, where the hell did he go? Yeah. Okay.
To be fair, it's really meant to be used in emergencies. I use it a bit more often than that.
Well, it is what it is.
Okay.
What
happened to, wasn't there a big red light and alarm on top of the door that would go off and you'd open it and shit? I don't know where it went.
Ooh. So,
right.
Good news, bad news.
What do you got here? Yeah.
Good news is, well, let me start with the bad news.
Okay.
I think most of this document needs to be scrapped.
Okay.
The good news, I think that we can present these things, some of the good stuff in here, like separately as like separate line items.
Okay.
And so the baseline perspective I want to come with is the things I agree with. We definitely need the state defined in the Constitution for the sake of everybody, right? Of present, it's like sort of exceptionally unclear. Like, I mean, it's kind of like a you're not gonna fuck with the state, right? That's just not gonna happen. That's psychotic. However, with its lack of definition, it does present a lot of areas that are just fundamentally unclear, right?
Yeah.
It's inherent.
If anyone was like, the state entered legislation, where is that legislatively approved? And yeah, it'd be a stupid argument to have. I completely agree with you.
Yes.
I've seen stupider arguments.
Absolutely. And so like it's inherent. It is known, let's say, I don't want to say inherent. It is known to be true. The state has the ultimate authority, right?
Right.
However, those that may run into having a pedantic argument in court or otherwise, even in person. It's just an annoyance. And so having that clarity in place is just generally good. And the fact that we, SASM and the DOC operate under them, I think that's a good thing. I don't think it's the purpose of this particular meeting at 7 p.m. Since it's more centered around like Darkstone, third-party vendors, et cetera, et cetera. However, it is something that I do want to bring up as like a secondary point, and presented more as a, hey, we think this is a good idea. I think it's conducive for everybody. And so that things make sense from a legal perspective. And we can get that further clarity from the state as to whether or not they agree. However, hold on, let me put this on the side here. So, and you'll note that there's hold on. I have an idea. It's a little difficult to look at this and speak at the same time. Here we go. All right. So let's go. Can we all open up the document real quick and let me know if you see my like highlighting?
Yeah, I'm in there. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So this right here, in terms of like Blaine County and Los Santos County, the butt may only be removed through authority conduct review or impeachment process or by direct order of the state. That is in and of itself its own. What I want to prevent is us presenting, there's something called omnibus bills. And that is the concept of like, you know, in other states, somebody presenting saying like, hey, we're going to do the farm tax reduction act, right? But inside there, it actually also has like a weapons deal with some foreign nation, right? And it also is like electricity rate changes in some other, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It gets filled up with so much. What that does is it creates many points of contention. So that is not to say that those different things don't have value, and it's not to say that those different things do not merit discussion. It's that the more things that the more points of contention there is, the more effort it takes to have all of it go through. So I want to avoid this whole thing of how mayors can whatever. It's already inherent that they can be impeached and ACR'd. I don't think that clarity is necessary. You know,
I think it was the reason that got so two things. One, you know, the attention span from the state to get the Constitution modified is limited. So the idea that we were going to get multiple bites at the apple was not very
that makes sense.
Likely. And then that particular thing got slotted in when the legislation that got put up about the terms for the chief and the sheriff was deemed unconstitutional. And so it necessitated a constitutional change to allow for that, essentially, such that the idea of even that legislation that was put forward was that the LSPD and the BCSO need to have a bit more continuity than having their entire structure shaken up every 3 months.
I don't disagree with that general principle. Mind you, having seen it myself,
the DOJ just deemed it to be unconstitutional because it said it took away the right from every other mayor to appoint the chief or the sheriff.
Correct.
So that was the constitutional amendment was that, you know, they really only get removed by these three avenues. Otherwise, and then yes, the chief or the mayors appoint a person to the vacancy if there is a vacancy, but they don't get to create a vacancy. The vacancy has to happen by ACR impeachment or state removal. Or and then that was the idea that Gunner slotted in. We can modify that. Or take it out altogether.
I'd say let's not even. I would say not our place, personally. Yeah. Given the fact that we're not inherently a political entity. Okay, so I would agree with the general. I think an argument can be made that, given that our mandate is the sanctity of this state, et cetera, a local law enforcement agencies having a rotating executives effectively leads to instability and da 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 da. I'm in general agreement with that, but it's like sort of I wouldn't say I'm generally in agreement with it. I get the argument. I think we have bigger fish to fry is probably my best way to go about it. So then comes the next section, the state of San Andreas. Sorry, Chris, I think I cut you off there.
No, I was just saying I agree.
Oh, easy. So then we got the state of San Andreas. I actually really like that being defined in. It may not even be a legislative authority, but a supersession of it, right? Like, because legislative authority almost infers that these things are all the same, when the reality is the state is the ultimate. Where does it even say the state is the ultimate authority?
In the state of San Andreas, rather than represented by whoever, we can modify that. I see your point here. Shall have ultimate legislative authority over all matters within the state, including local jurisdictions.
Oh, sorry. I mean, like in the Constitution. Like, let's say
it doesn't right now. The state is not enumerated anywhere. That's why all of the changes that the state have made.
We need to arrest Governor Coyle.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, down with Kevin.
Somebody could try to do that, and that's what this change is meant to protect.
That makes sense.
Also, to that note, a ghost edit was made to the Constitution. I'm unsure if you're aware of this, and the justices have yet to revert it. When this MDT breach that happened,
Right. And that makes sense. I do want to tackle that particular. Yeah, that's a good point. Okay. I like the general idea that we have something in here that definitively says, hey, the state has ultimate authority. In fact, it may just be a line item that is in Article 1, which I think would be a more appropriate location than referencing it as a legislative authority. By putting it as a legislative authority, I would read this as they are on equal standing. It also may pollute existing legislation already written in which, for example, the legislative authorities must equally vote or whatever it might be. It may pollute those things and sort of fuck up some stuff. Instead, I would almost rather see Article 1 expand with a singular line that says, yeah, kind of like what you're doing right there.
Trying to find a different color so it's different from the blue. We'll do purple.
And I don't think it needs to be more than a line. And the reason I say this is I think that by making it say, yeah, something like that, that all the finer details can be rather, let's say, open to interpretation, because at the end of the day, if there is enough contention, the state's going to say up or down anyways. So telling them what they can and cannot do is sort of like a fool's errand. And as such, saying, hey, these guys are the ones with the biggest dicks, and they make final assertions is good for consistency in the Constitution. But then we can expand in, let's say, a Article 3, maybe not an Article 3, but rather, an Article 2, where it just talks about, where is it? Where do they got the agency stuff in there? We can find a place where it says, the DOJ and the marshals or whatever.
That's in the legislative authority section right now. Is what San Andreas, Blaine County, the mayor, and then the mayor is responsible for the Blaine County Sheriff's Office. Los Angeles County Mayor responsible for the LSPD.
I would make that
That's
in
where-
Article 5. Personally, I don't know. We can find a slot for it. Let me think here. Supremacy of the state.
I mean, it's like Article 1 is governance and law. You can even put a second sentence just under the supremacy of the
You know
state of
what?
San
I
Andreas.
like that. I like that. I like that a lot. Yep. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. I like that a lot. And if there's a belief that that needs to be separated out somewhere, that could be done as well. So for example, like instead of after the 4, we could even just put like just a paragraph like here, you know, if it's at the end of the day, it's a formatting thing, right? And
Yeah.
the state is also responsible for overseeing the state. The senators. Okay. Because there is some stuff in here about like jurisdiction and whatnot, right? Shall have ultimate authority over all matters within the state, including local jurisdictions responsible for reviewing, approving, and directing. I don't want to put too much in this, like things about the authority conduct review, and I think the key points here are, you know, overseeing the San Andreas State Marshals and Department of Corrections. Yeah, maybe that's enough. I think when it comes to, yeah, you know, that's enough, because even when it comes to like Blaine County and stuff, it's very just open, right? Just says governance, public service, and local laws. Whereas for us, it's the same thing, but at a state level.
Right. I mean, I'm looking here at the SASM director and warden appointment. It says SASM director and warden appointed by the state may only be removed. Blah blah blah. I think based off of the recent election, I think it can be modified to like the SASM director and warden are appointed by process
it's not even
or a
needed.
process.
They have their own legislation now.
Yep.
We don't even, that sentence isn't even needed anymore. We just strike it all
Yeah.
together.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I think this was written before that legislation came into play. So
That is
actually
that
this
is
whole
perfect.
everything here can go, right?
Yep.
Yep.
So the only purpose of enumerating the Marshall's legislation in the Constitution, or at least something to that effect, is that, and we could probably just do this in the underlying document itself, just making clear that the legislative authorities do not have the ability to modify that legislation at will without, like, the state has the authority over the Marshall's legislation itself. Because the concern was, you know, the mayors could at any point put forward a statewide amendment to the Marshall's legislation that says, you know, the SASM TMD Act, essentially. And the point of it was to, enumerate that the, our existence, our legislation, our governance exists outside of the local legislative authorities.
So one thing that I need to do, and I should have done already, is read through all that stuff, because when I first read it, it was just like a wall of text and I was dying inside. So I need to go read through that. What was the
I think we can achieve it in the underlying legislation itself and put enough protection in there to changes to it.
Agreed.
I don't think it needs to be in the Constitution.
Yeah, so let's not bring that stuff up at this meeting. We'll say, hey, that's an action we want to take. We can re-meet next week if need be. And specifically, if there's things we need to extract out of the rulings, determinations made by the governor, and implementing the spirit of what he's saying into that document, right? So in future, that those rulings made on the docket don't need to be referenced. It can be referenced directly in the legislation on the MDT. Okay, let's go to the next bit, which is Article 3, the rights. Wait, what is this? Okay,
One above. The individuals may not have any felony charges on their record to be eligible. That's already been set forth by the state with that whole contest that Moose put forward about the felony clowns trying to run for mayor shit. The term limits Gunner wanted to slot in there. I don't think that's necessary.
No,
I do think the not having a felony stuff is just
I would just
noting down what the state has already said.
Let's not even put that in there.
No? Okay.
That's like it's already there. That's a DOJ's business. This just I'm looking at some of these line items of like, this costs us 30 minutes of conversation. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Actually, we look at like, it's something to try to put to bed some of the also open cases that are still waiting for state acknowledgement. Like, there's still the very oldest case on the docket is Moose Knuckles and the clown suing the DOJ that the state hasn't looked at for like 4 months now. So it's kind of to put to bed those things and just kind of draw a finality to that whole conversation. But we can drop it if it's problematic. I like I said, the state's already said it. I don't think it'll be a problem, but we can drop it if it's a problem.
Yeah, I think it's probably better to do that. I want to keep our sword really sharp for the things we desperately need. And not dull it on matters that are either resolved by another party or won't immediately affect us in, let's say, the next 3 months. The next is the right to fair trial. I very much like this, but you know what? It falls under the same sort of thing. Like, hey, we put this in this, but we want to give this ball to you, DOJ. We think it being in there is a good thing. But that may just be, we might be called idiots by the governor if we put that in. Like,
so that came, that was slotted by Gunner again. That was a result of his impeachment hearing, where Justice Grayson said that due process does not allow for him to have legal counsel for his impeachment proceeding. And Gunner tried to challenge that again? And said, okay, so we're at Gunner's impeachment hearing. It got time for, the respondent to go say their piece. I got up to, as counsel to present that. And Justice Grayson told me to sit down and that Gunner was not entitled to a lawyer for that proceeding because it was an impeachment hearing, not a court case.
If that's the case, we shouldn't put that in there. And instead, that is something that, okay, so I didn't realize it was that much breadth. I think this in and of itself is a bigger conversation. I am also of the belief that you should have legal counsel, but for me, and this is my political stance, right? So I don't expect you guys to adhere to this or share the belief. But for me, I've always looked at impeachments and ACRs similar to that of a, what do you call it? Congressional hearing, right? FBI director has to go talk about shit in front of Congress. I like the core idea of that, given the fact that it's a hearing, right? And the proceeds of that ACR hearing are not inherently punitive, right? Because let's say I go and, turn this building into a sex building. I don't know. I'm just coming up with, wait, maybe I shouldn't use that reference given recent let's let's use a different example. Let's say I start growing crack, we start selling crack out of here to fund us, and like how the CIA used to start selling drugs down in South America in order to do all kinds of crazy shit. Let's say we started doing something along those lines. We start selling crack in the South Side, and I'm telling you guys to do this, and we're like low key dumping that over there, and we're getting some kind of cut for our budget. Let's say I get caught, and there's a legislative hearing about it. I should have to speak to those questions directly, and if if I don't think I should be afforded the ability to lie, right? I should be held accountable for that. But ultimately, regardless of what the outcome is, the state determines whether or not I get removed. The DOJ doesn't get to do that. So there's sort of like a built-in protection. Does that make sense?
There's various different outcomes that could come from, and that's where a congressional hearing, right? They can ask these questions, and yes, you swear under oath, and you can't lie, and etc. But they ultimately have no teeth, right? They have no authority, no ability to take away your job, to censure you, to sanction you, to punish you, nothing. Whereas in these hearings, it's overseen by a judge, not necessarily the legislative authorities, not a panel of people to ask questions. It's a singular justice. And that justice, I mean, they do get to determine the outcome of that hearing in terms of whether there's a censure, a sanction. There's loose language there about having to, talk to the state in terms of a removal. But we've seen impeachments go through where there's not been state consultation with regard to them.
I can say
the Janet Pierce one comes to mind.
Oh, wait, what happened at the end of the Janet Pierce one?
If I correct, I believe she was removed.
So
she was not,
No. She was, so that impeachment, they said that due to basically the things that they brought up were outside of statute and won't be considered. So she was not ultimately impeached.
Okay,
but they said that they would try to handle it.
That did go through? There was a
no. We have not had a. And I think again, I was sort of cooking on an impeachment for Grayson outside of this, but due to the political climate and all this stuff, I think it was worth a greater conversation. Like, hey, I think we need to better clearly define the actual process of these hearings. Like, I'm trying to find the due process legislation, but basically the one where it defines each one, like, appeals, civil court, all of those are clearly defined. We don't have a clear definement of what these impeachment hearings look like, and part of the reason is we don't have a lot of those hearings, because most of the time an impeachment gets brought up, at least in my case, brought several forward, but I've ended up removing them because the person got charged, right, with criminal charges, or they resigned, and that just makes the impeachment null and void. So, I think it's worth a greater conversation in good faith, and not not a screaming match, but as adults and legislative authorities and law enforcement agencies to say, hey, let's clearly define this. That way, in the future, there's not this whole back and forth, and it doesn't turn into this toxic, vitriol political mess.
So this is what I was thinking about. In the impeachment legislation, the only time the state is enumerated in terms of anything regarding to impeachments is in number 4 for deliberation. It says, upon conclusion of the hearing, the San Andreas Department of Justice, in combination with a representative from the state, shall review the arguments and evidence.
So,
and then number 5, the Department of Justice will then deliver its deliberation of the impeachment and any necessary actions, including removal from office, writ, censure, or sanction.
So I can I'm going to phrase it sort of like this, is that I definitely think that I'm in agreement that this sort of area, this space, could use further defining. But I can say with absolute certainty, as I've spoken to from the desk of the governor, anyone that is elected will not be removed without the state making that final decision. So,
Gotcha.
However, anyone underneath that, and so using like Jaina as an example, or let's say one of y'all, right? Or we hire a marshal, let's say tomorrow, and that marshal starts like doing some crazy shit, right? And I want to be clear here, like it's something that they knowingly did that was illegal, right? As opposed to something else, right? The allegations of there may be that the DOJ is going to oversee that. And the hearing will take place or whatever. But if they are removed, that is more of like, let's say SASM high command says, you know what? No, I think they did that shit. We're getting rid of them. They're a liability, right? Because like in the case of Jaina, right? Yeah, they removed her, but that was within their purview anyways, right? As justices. Because by not removing her, given the impeachment, they are liable legally, and they are open for impeachment to not remove her. Just as I think
the question of should somebody be entitled to legal counsel during that process. I think if they want one, due process.
I agree.
Effectively demands that any government proceeding against somebody, they should have a right to legal representation.
I do agree with that. And I think that in of itself should be spun into its own conversation about ACRs and impeachments. Because I do agree that Gunner in that case should have had legal representation. But I'm also equally of the belief that he should have to speak on as any director, as any chief of police, as any sheriff, as any mayor should speak to the public direct, right? And I know that can be a limiting factor for some, right? Not saying like Gunner in particular had this, but like, let's say, we had Osvaldo Pringafria, right, as the mayor. Yeah, I think he shouldn't have a in-between speaking on his behalf because he's elected. He needs to speak to the public. His word should be a matter of record. But once again, that what I'm sort of putting forth there is more my political position, right? Where I think
and I don't disagree they should have to testify. The assertion in there was Justice Grayson said, I wrote the due process legislation, and I did not include in there anything that says you have the right to an attorney for an impeachment hearing.
Yeah, I don't agree
emphatically
with that.
Stating he should not have a lawyer, period. And that I didn't like that at all.
Yeah, I'm with you on that aspect, because even though he may have written the due process legislation, that is his interpretation of the Constitution, and the Constitution is, up to the state on their final thing. Yeah.
And that was essentially the idea of fleshing out there. If we were having a different conversation and get the due process stuff changed absent this, it was more of just a clarification constitutionally of due process that essentially you have a right to an attorney for any government proceeding against you, regardless of the nature of said proceeding.
Yeah, I think with that just needs to be a separate conversation within itself. Because
I think
I don't want this meeting at 7 to be completely derailed by people's. I mean, because there's going to be very differing opinions around it.
Exactly that. I think we tackle it as its own subject matter, because we will have to be filing ACRs and impeachments perhaps in the future, and having that stuff clarified in advance, I think is only a good thing, right? I will tell you that I personally hate docket shit. It's not my, I like shit happening in the city. Let's throw it like that, right?
Yeah, I get you.
And so, like, including but not limited to the. Anyways, yeah, let's go to the next point. I'm glad. I think we're mostly on the same page. I think we have a idea as to where we want to go with this. We'll have a separate meeting on it. Okay. So, I think that was
so that's
it,
Constitution
right?
done. Yeah.
Okay. So, San Andreas State Marshals. So going back to it, I don't think we need any of this in this meeting. But I do want to review this. Any of these
Marshals
documents.
legislation stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's I think because. But I'm gonna go through it so that you understand the reason why. So, going into the SASM and Department of Correction, obviously that one line needs to change since the references are kind of moving about.
Yeah.
All that stuff about ACRs, I put a comment on there. I said, I like the idea of us expanding on and adding clarity, but I think these things already exist inherently in our powers. So if there is,
you will find as you go to start and do things, people will start saying, well, where do you have the authority to do this?
yeah, and then they're going to be met by I may how do I put this? Like in particular, you mean like where's our authority to ACR people?
Yes, we've been specifically told that, and it has been argued on the docket several times by Mayor Rizal that the SASM is not entitled to file ACRs or impeachments, and that law enforcement officers are not entitled to use evidence uncovered as a result of their employment in ACRs or impeachments.
I'm aware, like with the Ruth thing.
Yeah,
no,
I mean, even in one of the impeachments we were going to bring, I believe there was something to the effect of like no, it was the one McAllister filed. Was that McAllister didn't or a contest didn't have the authority to do that because the marshals aren't enumerated as somebody who is allowed to file, and law enforcement officers are not entitled to file.
All citizens
ACRs
can though.
Exactly, but they said essentially you must do it as a private citizen with the information available to you as a private citizen.
Yeah, no,
exactly.
I think that was Rizal hoping that. It is true that 99.9% of San Andreas doesn't understand the law or the spirit of things written, and that is but if you do know those things, it's a very powerful weapon, and I think Rizal's argument can boil down to it's a great argument he's making, I think, that is, shielded around the truth. And while I'll tell you right now, if we need to ACR someone, we will do it. If we need to impeach someone, we will do it. Anyone who tells us we can't will be met with effectively a, okay, bro. Like we don't answer to, we don't have to answer to anyone but the state. And if, let's say, for example, let's say the DO, like someone at Justice came and said, well, no, you can't. We agree. We're not going to push this forward. Well, then we just kick it up to the state and they're going to be like, are you guys dumb? And they're not going to do that. I think the plain reading is very obvious. I also dealt with this with the Ruth situation where Ruth was, which mind you, got very nasty. Not by, well, it got, I'll put it this way. People get too in their feels when it comes to impeachments and ACRs. I await the day I get to go to, this is going to sound weird, but I'm being honest. I would love to go to an ACR impeachment. I think that they are fun. I think they could be fun. I want someone to wonder, like, hey, should I have been fucking, someone in the marshal's office, as an example. And I would gladly let them know that I cannot white pea and, bring it on. And then that would then go to the governor and he'd probably get a laugh out of it. I mean, unfortunately,
so I think that's the challenge, is there's just been a skipping of that whole going to the governor thing. And the justices, like even in Gunner's impeachment, they didn't, in number 4 says they must deliberate with a member of the state. They didn't. He went and deliberated and came and delivered his verdict in 20 minutes or so.
Well,
with
yeah,
no state representation, contact, nothing.
That's a good point. And but maybe he did. You know what I mean? I don't know, right? Was it a matter of record? I'm being a bit.
Nothing to the effect was stated on the record that any such contact, deliberation, discussion took place at all.
He
went back into the deliberation room and then came back about 20-25 minutes later and delivered his verdict.
Mind you, I am being a bit what's the word I'm looking for? Not devil's advocate. I'm assuming the best, right?
Optimistic,
right?
Yeah.
And I think there's the secondary point too is like maybe he didn't feel like there was a need, given the fact that it was a positive outcome for Gunner, right? In that, hey, we the DOJ don't believe there was any wrongdoing, and therefore and given the fact that there's not going to be a suggestion of punitive or otherwise, it doesn't go up the chain, right?
What you said here is very accurate. The point of this language is to prevent these pedantic arguments. I don't know if you think again, I don't see any harm happening there. Anybody's really going to object to them. But I think it will save us a lot of unnecessary argument over stupid shit in the future, whereas we could focus on the actual ball in front of us.
100%. So let's take on this action separately. So the first, to make sure that I've got this in my head right, the first is enumerating the state in the Constitution, and then and in turn the SASM and the DOC. That one, absolutely. The second is revolving around impeachments and ACRs, let's say. So those are two separate. I think the Constitution thing we can bring up today as a secondary point is that, hey, this is something we're going to want to put forward for everyone's sake. The impeachment stuff, we'll table that for another day.
We also don't have to achieve that by modifying our legislation. If we get their buy-in, they can on their own, the DOJ can modify their impeachment and authority conduct review legislation.
True.
And simply add us as a fourth option there.
My point is that it's not something I want to bring up today.
Don't? So impeachment ACR stuff is not
correct. Yeah. That'll be like a
okay.
Today I want everything to be very, work together energy, right? So we want to bring mostly the good, to start look at it. I have to play politics here, right? And it's important that most of what we're bringing forward is more resolution rather than presenting too much areas that may be in conflict, to start us on a good foot and to show every entity is going to believe that they're operating in good faith, right? So we want to I want to go in there and be like, here are solutions to this Darkstone thing, and kind of leave it at that. And then as that secondary, hey, we want to get the state enumerated in the Constitution. Contention related stuff, I want to save to next week after we've let it cook a little bit more.
Okay.
Yep. Yo, sub.
On the Darkstone front, what do you want to see happen there in terms of solution that we're presenting? And like, what do you imagine that approval process being for the SASM? Obviously, we had the discussion the other day about BCSO LSPD and that bill and whatnot.
I think
that we kind of inherently said, obviously, anything that we acquire getting added to our armory is inherently going to, the state's going to have to approve that for it to get into the armory.
Let me see. Let me get through the document just real fast. I think there's only one other point on it. The third thing that we want to do for another day is the bail and parole stuff. I think that's good. I think it's just merits its own filing, right?
That was word for word presented to us and asked to be slotted in by the warden.
Oh,
so we told the warden that we were going to put forward our martial changes to the state when Gunner did that, and they said, since we're in that legislation, we want this as well. And so at Yui's request, we put that language in there. That's her drafting.
Okay, that makes sense. I will say that that we can push separately. Let's see. In fact, that is something that I would love to do after this one, to show good faith to the DOC as well, right?
Yeah, it might even be worth waiting for the, not that I expect anything to change with regard to the leadership.
Oh
there.
yeah, after the warden stuff, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. Okay, so DOC stuff out. All right, what do you think about the
tenure?
Go ahead.
The tenureship stuff, that's also going to be its own thing. I'm not opposed to the idea. It's just that's something we got to tackle separately. One thing
I agree. I have my own thoughts about that as well, but that I think that needs to just be a separate discussion altogether between us first. But
yeah, I think gentlemen, the faceless is going to blow up this island, right? It could be 3 months from now, 4 months from now, etc. I want our core focus to be how do we so I think this is important to share. I do not want us wasting our time with IA related things unless it's egregious enough that we need to take action. And we need to provide value in our existence. Otherwise, our existence may no longer be there, quite truthfully. Now, there is a world where Kyle Pred starts to weapon traffic. There is a world where Frost decides to join New Babylon and secede. Those are things that are in our purview and should become a matter of concern and things that we tackle. However, I do not want us to be scuffed IA, for lack of a better word. And I say scuffed in the sense that we go and start to, check on folks like we were joking with Den earlier, right? Where we start following Den around and what is he up to? Because here is just the sore reality of the current San Andreas culture is that the moment we do that, we become a target. There will be no accountability. Even if he is fired, he will be rehired in 30 days. So it becomes a matter of like balancing effectiveness, right? And what I see, and I see those actions effectively resulting in us getting ostracized, right? And I think that's kind of what has happened over the last like year or so. Is it's not just like sort of the IA stuff, but it's also us not being able to like show our value, right? Maybe there's value coming to some aspect of the state, but I don't actually think it is, right? And what I see sort of like disappearing is serious investigations. I've spent time in the LSPD. I've spent time in the BCSO. And the thing that stood out more than anything is that a lot of these guys are just not trained. Some of the officers that are full officers, the deputies are actually in a pretty good spot. Don't know how to arrest folks. They don't know how to, document their belongings. They don't. I dealt with. I caught the besties with 57 bags of methamphetamine, and
Jesus.
I had an officer walk in, want to be a part of the interrogation, and then idiotically, because he had such a hard on putting a warrant out on him. I don't know what makes him tick, but wanted to, because we had to release him to push the drug trafficking, right? Raid his properties. This dumbass went and charged him for what he did that day.
Oh. Oof.
That is the general state of the police department. It is filled with inadequate, ping chasing, adrenaline filled, cannot think beyond themselves, just dog shit. And you know what's taken the back seat? Being able to look into criminal organizations. There's a lot of great officers that and detectives I worked with and helped build up over at the BCSO. There are a bunch of great detectives and law enforcement officers over at the LSPD. However, with the amount of 78s, with the amount of dumb fucks that they're surrounded by, we haven't had any good cases go to the docket. And trust me when I say that of the ones that may be good that are coming to your mind, they are nothing to what they used to be 5+ years ago. And that's why I want to have that be our primary area of expertise. I want us, whether it's the Faceless, whether it's Darkstone, whether it is the Besties, right? Let the PDs do what they want to do, like, right? They're empowered to do so. But I want us to start tackling the bigger shit and take on the detectives from both departments to be involved with us in lockstep. Because they're the ones who are going to be on the field at those 78s, may find, like, I don't know, forehead with a particular strain of meth on them. Say, hey, Chris Blunt, we got him. He's got that strain that we've been looking for, because they're tapped in enough to know to alert us. And all of a sudden we're taking down like four of their individuals and their properties. You kind of see where I'm going with this? And we have the tools for it. And our biggest tool is we don't need to go to 78s. Right? I look back at the situation a week and a half ago where there was a Darkstone transport that took place. Apparently, the marshals knew about it. That transport was supposed to be Wednesday or whatever. PDs had no idea. That's a problem, right? We need to be.
Oh, they knew.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. Gunner was working lockstep with Opal for that.
Oh, she's awful. She's Opal is very good if she's directly involved. Outside of that, she is grossly undertrained. And look, I'm just gonna speak how I feel. She now some of this is not her fault. I'm just gonna say that straight, as she has dealt with having things just thrown at her and having to resolve those things. Unfortunately, due to the lack of oversight on her, which is, you know, more of a LSPD high command thing. No, if Opal knows, it doesn't mean the rest of the department knows. It's just.
Gotcha. I think he was working with her in her capacity as head of TRT at the time.
She was removed from TRT like a month ago, I think. 3 weeks ago. Yeah, she's been rather disconnected from a lot of these things, unfortunately. I want to take back what I said when I said Opal is awful. She's not awful. She's just not who you would want to go to. Regardless, right? What I'm even describing right there, communication with the departments, that I see as our responsibility. And what I mean by that is that responsibility will go beyond just, hey, we told Pred, or like, hey, we told, you know, Austin Bean. It's that we're reassuring and ensuring that they actually know. You get the vibe? And so
I think there was a lot better, and Peters, you can tell me if I'm wrong. I think there was a lot better of that when the inquiry task force was up, and there were a good number of people that were involved in the communications and the reports and stuff. That was all disbanded and taken down when Turner was removed and Ruby was put in.
So,
but that whole report category and that whole process kind of existed for that kind of open sharing with select members of the BCSO and the LSPD that the high commands chose.
You ready for the horror story?
Trusted. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Unfortunately, that was a very failed effort.
Okay.
And I'll explain it like this. I think the premise of it from the Marshall side was good. The problem was that the PDs did not buy into it. Turner effectively gave Doc and Opal free reign. And as I mentioned yesterday to Doc, I don't hold his actions. Like, there's no remorse. I don't even think he's the one at fault. High command just said, hey guys, figure it out. The problem with that is high command still needs to know enough to know when that they put 2 people on it. Not enough people knew about the faceless documents. Not enough people knew that, some of these things were being done. In other words, Turner, unfortunately, for all the good he did bring, was very, I trust you to do anything, and that anything may have been not communicating and doing whatever the fuck you want. We will lean on something similar to that, with the difference being we're going to involve directly. So I'm not going to ask LSPD or BCSO. Well, we will work with their high commands, but we will select ourselves based on diligency who will be brought in to get that information, those clearances. But we will also oversee it in the sense that, let's say, for example, let's use, Opal as an example. Let's say we're like entrusting her with this and entrusting her to, share this information out. It is our job to then recheck with high command. Hey, do you know these things are happening? And if we find that those communication gaps don't exist, we have to resolve them, which might feel like it's out of our space. But if we don't, well, then it's going to fall flat. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The other challenge I see is you put people that, let's say, there are individuals involved and they're involved in something that their high command, that they keep them, or they're told to keep them out of the loop on. That might cause a air of animosity of, the people that outrank that individual, but that person has information that they don't have, type deal. It can create some tension there that we want to be mindful of, the position that we put people in by controlling it to that extent.
Yeah.
I think we got to see how much buy-in we'll actually get from them if we're kind of the ones choosing as opposed to them.
I think we're going to get buy-in. Well, I mean, that sucks for them then, you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, the sort of like spitball plan I have is for us to be 70-30, 30% patrol, 70% investigative. Sort of dialing back to that situation with the, with the transport that took place. That information never got to me. I was the head of the Blaine County detectives, but equally my counterpart, Ruby York, was not made appraised. It was so bad that McNulty was at the Faceless house, and Opal only told me that she was mad that he was there because we should know that, which she never told anybody. Right.
What?
It's
just looking back, that whole thing, because she organized the TRT training for that Wednesday that transport was supposed to happen, and then immediately after that was when the announcement came out that Peters was taking over TRT.
So maybe a good way to put this is like everyone has their qualities, right? And so and similar to within the marshals, we're going to all have our areas of like expertise. I like how Bobby put it to me yesterday, is like we should in the marshals be highly competent in all factors law enforcement, but we will then have our specialties on which we can lean on each other for, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And the same is going to be true among law enforcement, where there are only a certain breed that will be and will show what do you call it, interest in detective work, and we are going to need to seek them out. I will work on the buy-in aspect. I've already gotten pre-buy-in. It's the only reason I decided to run and even accept the position, is because without the departments willing to work with us, investigations are dead, right? Beyond a couple weed sales. And it is in their best interest to go down that route, because otherwise, we're going to have the most information by the time I'm done, and expertise. And that's, I'm not saying that in a way that I'm going to threaten them with that. It's just reality, right? I keep going back to Friday's transport. we needed to go interrogate a bunch of people. We couldn't do it. We had like 7 folks, but 78s. This other BCSO LSPD bullshit, this, that, and the third. We don't have those problems, right? Some shit goes down within 48 hours. We can probably have the entire bunch interrogated, right? In the midst of gang-related shootings, we can be off in 2 separate teams, like surveying something, right? So
100%.
Yep.
There's they don't want to lose that, quite frankly. So okay.
Yeah, I think communication has always been a universal issue between departments, and especially surrounding all of this Darkstone and Faceless things. While there was initial success, I think that the timing of all of the political backlash from that kind of put a hamper on things, and that led to Turner getting removed. It led to ultimately Opal being demoted and taken off TRT. It led to more backlash on Gunner, and probably other officers and maybe whole departments not willing to work with us and things like that. And even still, like with the operation that was supposed to happen Wednesday but happened Friday, the main point of contact, if things were changed, that wasn't clearly communicated, and like who is that person, who's the Darkstone person, like directly communicating with it. It's things like that I think if we can shore up moving forward, I think we're going to be in pretty good shape.
I 100% agree. And I want to go back to my original point of why I'm not interested in investing into IA stuff. It is so embarrassingly bad how bad investigations are that Brandon Valentino, when I picked him up, because Faceless shit wasn't going anywhere, just straight up, amongst from what I could see from my perspective, right? We were arrested. The amount of scenes I went to, where we had blood casings coming back to these assets, and we weren't bringing him into investigate. We weren't bringing him into interrogations. We weren't actually throwing up a case on the docket to get rid of it, because we're not going to get the top of the Faceless org. It's just unrealistic. But what we can do is we can start doing damage by fucking up the assets, right? Getting enough to throw them into jail for a while, taking their fucking houses, right? Going and finding some clean person that might be allowing them to continue to operate. We go fuck their life up. Why? Because they're enabling that. In other words, my point there being is we can cripple their organization in other ways. Watching it, sort of taking the backseat for a while, I eventually made the decision to pick up Brandon on a consensual encounter, right? In the car, have you been, Brandon, et cetera, et cetera. He, in no uncertain words, was begging for an interrogation. He told me that he was not brought into an interrogation for 7 months. Now, that is not healthy for the state. You guys see where what I'm trying to present here is I don't want investigations to go away and the PD to be taken over by ping chasers, because there's outside incentives for that. We have the ability to fix it. So if and ever there is a new age, right, where things get better again, that there is... people can look back at this department and the detectives and the other individuals from different law enforcement agencies and be like, hey, that's how we need things to be. So okay.
We hopped a couple different lily pads there. Just drawing back to one of the things you want to propose today is a solution for the Darkstone stuff. What solution are you proposing precisely with regard to what approval process will you go through for entering into such sort of arrangements, contracts, dealings, etc.?
I'm gonna keep it simple. I sign off on it and I send it to the state for a head nod. Right.
Okay.
The director must, you know, we can add it in however way, like effectively, you know, there's a contract. I'm like, I bet this sounds cool. I send it to the governor or the state. I'm like, yo, dog, we're doing this. And if they say yes, then so be it. If they say no, so be it.
Okay. What if you get no response? Do you want a built-in time frame of like, if you don't hear anything within 72 hours or a week or something?
Yeah,
that,
7
you know,
days.
it proceeds or something? Okay.
Yeah, 7 days.
And then at that point, would you just bring that forward to the DOJ and legislative authorities?
Let me pull up the
Will he just be able to do it, right? Because the idea is you should be able to acquire things without having to announce to the general public that we've acquired such thing.
Oh, okay, I got you. Because I'm just trying to prepare for backlash as well.
Well, let's say we got, somehow we acquired some device that allowed us to, with legal authority, access some sort of computer system or something, right? That is otherwise inaccessible. Do we really want to announce to the public that we have such a tool?
No. Of course not. Wait, what? So I need to bring up the legislation because you're making good points, but I need to understand the relevancy per what's written in there.
Well, there's not to this particular point. It's not really special. So I'm working on language to achieve what it is you want to achieve in terms of that approval. Gunner's position was that he approves it as the director, and that's it.
I'd say approval, and then I get confirmation within 7 days from the state. If they renege on it, they renege on it.
And that was kind of his point of like, if the state didn't approve of it,
I will notify the
wouldn't
state.
End up in the armory, they just wouldn't get there.
Exactly. Then it becomes like an internal thing, right? Like if we get like a fucking bomb or something, right? I'm like, yeah, dog, we need that just in case we need to fucking, nuke New Babylon ourselves. And, and I send it out. I'm still liable if I end up using it. So I would just use best judgment at that case, right?
Yeah.
Because
ultimately,
do you have
the
any
state...
food or drink? Anyone?
No.
Okay, let's take a ride.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Because ultimately, the state controls what's sold in our armory, anyways. Like from the get go, like the DOJ, nor any legislative authority or mayor's office ever controlled or approved any sort of offshore accounts or any deals.
The sliding door.
This is why I use the back door.
Oh, as soon as we get keys, we'll do so. I'm going around.
Hold on.
Yep.
Try the other one.